Leave anytime you want.
Well, welcome everybody. Those up here, if you want to put your microphones on, I welcome you to the first meeting for June, really our first summer meeting. And as you look to your left, you can see an old elm tree that we're carving up out there. We're going to have circular different patterns on different history activities, about 10 of them, as they just got done with the Mustang on top. It'll take them the next month or two on that. So as you leave tonight, I would suggest you look at that. It's quite something. It was the Tree Champions idea, and it's supported by different charities in town. We didn't pay $1. It's charities that people put in on that. So with that, no, we're meeting tonight in accordance with the governor, which I spent last week at the policy conference with, policies and procedures, open meeting acts. So from there, I'd like to start the meeting. Everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. So if you're new, I don't see too many newbies, but there are some generation people in here. When you come in, there's kind of the score sheet or the agenda. I will get you through this as the night goes on. We'll start, we just did number 1, the Pledge of Allegiance. We're on number 2, the call to order. So I'm officially opening up this meeting, and I would like Clerk Smith to do the roll call, please.
Mayor Turnbull.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Morosky Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Janetti.
Here.
Councilmember Krenz.
Here. Great. We have a full quorum here tonight. So we've changed things up a little bit. We've got a little bit of gone Mod Squad. Everything's online, and it's very easy to add different things. If you added letters right up to 4 o'clock today, we have them in our packages. We've looked at it. We've looked at different videos. It's a little tougher for us to administrate it, but it's really easy out there. So we have got all those documents. And if you're online, we have many people online tonight. They're able to follow with us and look at the documents and sort them. And even when they send them back, they can highlight what's on there, and we see all those highlights in the whole bit. So with that, we've changed up also the order of things. We will approve an agenda, but then I'm going to ask our city manager to go through everything on the consent agenda so you know what's on there. But before we start, I believe we have somebody that's special with us, Justin Quagliato, which is a new member of the staff. And I'd like you to introduce him if you could, George. That would be great. Come right up, Justin.
Good evening, council and public. I am very pleased to be able to introduce Justin Quagliata, our new Director of Community Development. Justin comes to us with a degree from Michigan State University, a bachelor's in urban planning, and he has had experience in a couple of different municipalities in Meridian Township, and also more recently for 4 years in White Lake as a senior planner or planning staff person. Justin will be doing a number of things for us. He will be overseeing the sort of whole built environment, if you could think of it that way. So he's a planner by trade, actually passed the AICP, which is a certified planner test, which is great, a great accomplishment. And he will be doing the whole built environment, which is if someone comes in the door talking about economic development, what we sort of want to see, possibly with incentives, then also talking about the whole planning process, and then going on to the built environment of how you actually construct and oversee that. So as you know, it is very difficult to get skilled people at this level in terms of city government at this point, fierce competition. And we are very pleased to have someone with Justin's background here to join us here in Northville and be a part of our team. So with that, Justin, if you'd like to say a few words.
Great.
Thanks, George. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm really excited to be in Northville. It's a great community and there's a lot going on. When you read the news, there's a lot happening in the 2 square miles in Northville. I got a great tour from the mayor last week and he gave me an introduction to a lot of the projects, but I'm excited to be here and to work for you and with you and look forward to getting to know everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you. Welcome to the team.
So no, as Justin said, we have a lot going on in the city. We're bringing people in to assist, whether it's Wendy Longtree, who's doing projects, community involvement with Justin. We have new inspectors coming too, because we have a lot going on for Little Northville, and we have to be ready with the human resources at all times. So we're gearing up not only for today, but for the future. So you're going to see more people as the weeks and months go on. So with that, what you have in front of you, you have the agenda for tonight. I'm asking council to take a look at that. We will go through what's on the consent agenda. If there's something to add, we will add that after that. So I'm looking for motion to go forward with the agenda that you have in front of us.
So if it's something I'm still getting used to this new approach. If it's something that's currently on the consent agenda, I should wait.
That is
then
correct.
move it.
If you're moving it from consent to business, that could happen later. If for some reason council did not want to address an issue, you could totally remove it now. Council.
Yeah, no, this is just to move it
Yeah.
from consent to agenda, so I'll wait. Okay, thanks.
This is with this new package. New
too.
policies and procedures. We're trying to catch up. I've done it for about 6 years. It's the one way. I'm trying to learn the other way. My wife says I don't learn very well at this age, but so from there, yes, I'm looking for approval of the agenda that you have in front of you right now.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Great. So we have a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second to that motion? Support. So we have support. Any other discussion? Great. I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Great. So we have an agenda. At this point, we're going to go, I put public comment up as quick to the top of the agenda as possible. We're on number 4. No, there's 3 things on the agenda. If you want to talk about those, you have that opportunity. And the 3 things that are on the agenda tonight is consideration of the approval of the second reading, adoption of the proposed replacement ordinance amendment to kind of timing of music and amplification. It's not really wild and exciting, but if you're here for that, you will have 3 minutes to talk on that. I'll give you that time and I'll let you know when. The second thing is consideration of awarding a professional service contract to Fishbeck for a parking management study. If you're here to talk about that, I'd ask you to wait on that. The third thing is consideration of a resolution authorizing application and implementation of a shared streets and spaces grant. The sustainability has been working with Wendy Longfree. We will go through that. If you're here to talk about any of those 3 things, I'm going to give you 3 minutes on that. We're a very democratic world. Most municipalities, you get 3 minutes on everything up front. We give you that plus anything that's on the agenda. So if you would like to speak on anything other than that, those 3, this would be the time I'd ask you to come to the podium, write your name on that chart in the back so we can get it right, and then come right up to the podium, give us your name and address, and you can queue up in the back from there. Come right up.
May I ask you a procedure question first?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so what I'd like to say, I've been timing it and I'm probably going to run about 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Everybody will get 3 minutes, so talk quickly.
I've heard that you've done that for us.
Yeah, I've done that. I try to
But not
keep
for
it on it, but we have a lot going on. Go quick tonight.
Okay. Here we go.
Thank you.
In February, I received a greeting card from a council member.
Oh, and full name and address. I'm going to give you full credit for that. That's okay. He's stopping it. Don't worry. Don't worry about it.
Steve Pecan.
Yeah, got you, Steve.
611 Ashley Court.
Just for the record. And as you come up to the podium, you giving us your name and address gives us the opportunity to broadcast this and record. Don't worry. I'm with you. I'm with you.
We zero in it.
Yeah, I'm the guy. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In February, I received a greeting card from council member whom I won't name. In it, I was asked to meet and discuss views on street closures. We were out of town and so it was put on hold. A month later, council member emailed me through personal email and I agreed to meet, but asked to establish some of our positions first. Council member replied, quote, "I understand the concern of you and others," referring to Let's Open Northville folks, "regarding so much of what's going on. I take this seriously as safety and people's livelihoods are directly affected," end of quote. I then asked questions about addressing residents' concerns over increased traffic in neighborhood. I asked, how will the loss of 300 parking spots be resolved given the adverse impact that it will have? Since council member expressed an understanding of those who oppose closures, I had the impression there was an interest in a greater understanding of those in opposition. Now I believe the truth is actually on councilman's Facebook post with all caps in his title, "Injunction Overturned. Today is a great day." Other posts were similar, indicating council members' full support of the 6 months of complete closures. So I emailed him back and pointed out the conflicting positions when I was told that the council member believed we share a lot in common, refusing to dialogue further and preferring to meet as agreed. I did agree while adding one condition. I wanted to be joined by another citizen who shared my views and invited the council member to do the same. My suggestion is for the sake of transparency and accountability over a matter affecting all Northville citizens. My invitee, by the way, is not the head of Let's Open Northville. I have now sent 3 emails requesting this meeting without any reply. It's been about 6 days. Since it seems I'm deliberately being ignored, I decided to share this with the public and in front of the full council. I bring up this experience because it exposes a lot of lack of transparency by many on our council. Street closures have caused much division in Northville, and I believe it is time that the full council holds a roundtable meeting with those in opposition to address our concerns. Coffee with council, though an opportunity to discuss matters, is not a part of public record. In this format, I can share my concerns, but all council members are obliged to be silent. Throughout the street closures, council, to my knowledge, hasn't demonstrated interest in the very real concerns of the citizens it leads. Rather, you have shown your bias and glee over closing streets for 6 months a year, despite the very real problems it poses. Members, you're not elected to favor one group while ignoring another. Your duty is to represent all citizens. So I challenge each of you to show the citizens of Northville that you are willing to sit down face to face with your opposition and have an honest conversation where you can demonstrate transparency rather than ignoring us, with multiple citizens rather than one individual in a private meeting. I think that's a way to get around transparency. And I pose one last question, if I may.
Sure.
What is it that motivates council to resist and ignore those supporting open streets? Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to respond.
We don't have to respond to this, but maybe at the end, the closing would be a good thing.
Mr. Pike, and please stick around. You made personal comments and I'm going to address you.
So
Okay?
at the end of the meeting.
I'm going to address you.
Great. Okay. That's,
Please stick around.
yeah, I got you. This absolutely, this is public comment right now. Appreciate it. This is not a personal deal. Go right ahead.
I have a little bit more of a fun one for all of our, our city. My name is David Kibbe. I represent Northville Concord Elegance. We are the first youth-focused high-end car show in the country that we know of, and we use Northville as our backdrop for the event. We're happy to announce that we're entering our 3rd season with the event. The event will take place July 12th through the 14th. Our mission is to inspire the next generation of automotive enthusiasts, and what better place in the city of Northville to do so.
Absolutely.
The concours is judged exclusively by students ages 10 through 18. If you know of anybody that would like to join us, please check our website out and sign up. Each of these groups are mentored by leading automotive executives, designers, industry experts from across the globe. Northville has been highlighted numerous times in different publications and on a national stage for hosting this event now. And I will submit those to Mr. Mayor and the council after this. This year, the event will encompass 3 days, beginning Friday evening with a kickoff here in town at Genetti's restaurant. Organizational support from Dr. Demery and Denise Jenkins. Saturday morning, we'll begin with a Cars and Community event and roll into our 2nd annual Northville Concord Elegance driving tour in partnership with the city of Manchester, Michigan. The tour is exclusive to vehicles taking part in the concours, but the community is welcome to join us to cheer on the vehicles as they leave. The concourse will commence at 10 a.m. on Sunday and conclude at 3 p.m. Please visit northvilleconcord.com for more information about the event. Thank you to all of our partners here in town and those around the country. Meekum Auto Auctions, Out of Office Garage, Preservation Dental, Genetti's of Northville. Just to name a few. Northville Concord Elegance is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We still have sponsorship spaces available if there's anybody in the automotive community that would like to support. I'm available for any questions after this meeting, and we look forward to working with the community once again and bringing this fabulous event to fruition for the 3rd year. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Great event. We appreciate it. Next.
Mr. Mayor, just
Yes.
clarifying, was it July 12th through 14th?
July 12th through 14th. Yep, that is correct. July 12th through the 14th. I don't know if my car can go on that whole tour. I'm hoping to keep it together. Good. Oh, here we go. Go ahead, ladies.
I'm Denise Jenkins. I manage the office of Dr. William Demery at 371 East Main in downtown Northville. September 7th is Carl Garner Federal Lands Cleanup Day. It's celebrated across the U.S. every year on the Saturday after Labor Day. There are programs, ceremonies, and activities to promote cleanliness and upkeep of federal lands. In recent times, communities across the country have joined the effort to clean up their public spaces. The Cleanup Day has inspired an awareness of the age-old idea, don't be a litter bug. The Keep America Beautiful campaign started in 1953. It has celebrated many a milestone throughout the years, the Adopt a Highway program, the Waste in Place program in the schools, the Glad Bag-a-thon, the role of recycling, and it continues to this very day. I am here tonight to ask for your support and participation on September 7th from 9 until 11 a.m. The Michigan game starts at noon. In an effort to keep America beautiful. A group of volunteers will meet in Ford Field and be dispersed to their designated area of the city to pick up the public spaces. The Preservation Dental Anti-Litter Bugs, you know, the PD bugs that you all see in the parades, and there's one out front, will be on hand to assist, along with a crew to collect and contain whatever is picked up along the way. Dr. Bill Demery has been picking up the litter on Griswold from 8 Mile to Maine for several years now. Another local guy, also named Bill, and he comes here every now and then, has been picking up from Northville Lumber to Living and Learning building in town. Carol Jean Stockhausen and Kathleen Switowski not only get in their steps, but they pick up trash along the way. And I understand the middle school basketball coach picks up 7 Mile on his way into work. Years ago, a gentleman, you may know him, George H. Miller, took an active role in keeping Northville beautiful with a program he called Sweep the Streets, and I'm hoping that he'll join us as our grand trash marshal. You may think there's not much litter around town, but on Griswold alone, you'd be surprised. And you'd be surprised how many French fries go uneaten, how many fancy drinks Emma B buys from Starbucks, and there are lots of stray socks, tissues, and other unmentionables that fill up more than a simple kitchen-sized garbage bag on a semi-weekly basis. I have reached out to the Scouts, community organizations, other businesses in town, and everyone agrees it's a simple way to come together, and the result makes us all look good. It promises to be a great deal of fun, and it's simple enough for 4 city council persons and 1 mayor to each take on a quadrant of the city for a healthy competition. At the end of the day, the cleanest area, as decided by none other than our DPW director, wins a pizza party for their team of volunteers. I'm done. The hope is to make this an annual event. I don't need an answer to any questions. I simply need you to tell George you are in favor of the idea, up to the task, and support our efforts with a little elbow grease and manpower for the good of all the residents and businesses here in Northville. Everyone is welcome to join us. You know where I can be reached.
Thank you, ladies. I think you get full support. Appreciate it. They're not the clap or boo, but nice job, nice job. Come right up, sign it, just full name and address. Yeah, you can sign it after. Thank you.
I can't bend.
Well, my name is Dominic Giovanni. I live at 443 River Street, and I'm pretty sure everybody up here knows who I am by my videos, emails, and texts to you. I appreciate the response I've gotten from all the council members, the mayor. The only person I've never, ever gotten a response from on my text or emails is the city manager. What I'd like to do right now is my next door neighbor, a friend, her son says he knows you very well. He's high school, Frank Oldbrantz. She's taking care of her sister who has MS, but she wrote a letter and she would like me to read it.
Okay.
Letter says, my name is Annette Oldbrantz. I live at 335 River Street on the corner of Johnson River and Johnson. I've lived there for over 25 years. I'm 80 years old and in good health. However, I am concerned recently I just returned from an extended vacation, visiting my son in Tennessee. I was in shock when I walked into my house and everything was covered with dust. She did not know that the demolition had started. I immediately had trouble breathing after returning home. I called my next door neighbor, Dominic Giovanni, and asked him to come over and look at all the dust. I informed her that the status of demolition across the street had started. A couple of days later, I saw a group of men a few doors down on River Street, so I got in my car and drove over. I had a hard time breathing and was in tears, but I approached the 7 or 8 men and 1 woman, that would be Sarah, who had started that day. It was the first day. And asked the neighbor who was in charge. And I said, the bald guy, just like me, one wearing glasses. He's the city manager. So I called him over and said, look at all this dust on my car, the street, everywhere. I can't breathe. He saw I was in tears, but only wiped his finger on my car, looked at the dust and walked away, completely disregarding me. He went back to talking on his phone, which was witnessed by everyone there. Later that day, I received a phone call from Sarah Shields. I received Sarah Shields' phone call. She came to my house after I called her and stayed to talk to me for a while. She was very helpful and kind. That made me feel better. The day after that, Councilwoman Barbara Morosky Brown came to my house and showed her the dust. She stated that she would talk to the city manager that afternoon. Despite the help and concern from the two individuals, the dust is still terrible and I still have a hard time breathing. I was a nurse for over 30 years. And I know now I know how people with COPD feel. They have covered the windows. If you drive by our house, she has covered the windows and doors with plastic, trying to keep the dust out. But that shouldn't be my responsibility or concern. I'm not the city manager. I'm not responsible for considering the entire population's health risk due to the city projects, the dust, and dust mitigation. I'm hoping someone in the city will help step up and show some efforts before it's too late. As I understand, the dust from the structure of building materials contains harmful contaminants. It's not a quick process. We are only in the first stages of this process. So I just read a letter. Again,
Yep.
You all know who I am.
And we got your video today.
No secret. You got my
Thank you.
videos, you
Yep.
got my emails, you got my texts. Again, everybody's responded to me other than one person.
Thank you.
And I'll give you, she wanted me to give you a copy of the letter that she wrote. And signed.
Thank you, Tom.
So she has it. And
Thank you very
go
much.
from there.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Whoever next, this would be your time. Sign in. Thanks. Yeah, no. It's all yours, Jeff. If anybody else is going next, just sign in too.
Hi, I'm Jeff Snyder from Bealtown. Mayor Turnbull and City Council, I appreciate, as always, the opportunity to be before you this evening. I'm not sure, some of you maybe, I'm not sure you're all aware that Friday marks the end of the 8th week of demolition at the Downs. Wow, it just seemed to me, it seems like it's been a year. I have a question related to oversight and stewardship. On a grading scale of A to, I have A to F, but I'm going to put A to D minus. How would each of you grade yourselves and our city manager with respect to how dust mitigation into Bealtown, into downtown that I've heard about, and now recently in west of Center was managed over the last 8 weeks? All right, one at a time.
No, go right ahead.
Sorry about Mayor Turnbull, this one's for you.
Okay.
You have offered, many reassurances to many residents impacted by repeated dust plumes. In several instances, you proudly proclaimed that the demolition contractor was applying 100,000 gallons of water per day. You probably recall it. That's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water.
With my trusty calculator, and believe me, I needed a calculator, I figured out that will be nearly 4 million gallons of water will have been applied to the site by later this week. That's going to be a hefty water bill. My question to you is, who's paying that bill? I don't expect your answer right now.
Okay.
Finally, but one thing about Bealtown is, none of us have to be aware of it. We don't have to read about it or hear about it on social media, but we actually know the exact moment the streets close downtown. I mean, literally within minutes, the impact is instantaneous. Tomorrow evening, our neighbor will meet to discuss traffic mitigation with Chief Masek, if I pronounce that right. It's going to be an honor to have him down in our neighborhood. We want to invite any of you that can, to stop and join our neighborhood tomorrow at 5 p.m. And if you're interested, let me know and I'll give you the address. I don't want to read it here publicly.
Great.
On a related note, when I was on my bike, riding my bike down Center Street yesterday afternoon, there wasn't a single human being on Center Street. There wasn't any activity on Center Street. Why is a street that sees so little use remain closed? I think modifying Center Street would alleviate probably at least a third or more of the traffic in our neighborhood. And I'll leave you that. Oh, you know what other thing is, I know probably I can't comment, but I won't comment on it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Everybody else got a little more.
Yep, thank you. I didn't cut you off.
Touche.
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak in council chambers? And those online can hear it all now. They just can't ask questions, but they hear everything you say on the microphone there. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Jeremy Daum, 21114 Boulder Circle, Northville, Michigan, right up there in the coves, in Northville, 8 Mount Taft. I've came up here in the past, my biggest concerns, like I've talked before, were like I follow the wisdom in the people before me, or in the past, that have been in this town long before me, and their reasons are noted on the importance of having the streets open. But on the other end of things, it's just my biggest concern also is the safety of the individuals. Once the streets close down, I was coming through to work on Friday. I'm a Forever Fit personal training is my business here in downtown. I'm in the same building with Northville Physical Therapy and Rehab. I've been here for over 15 years, and it just messes with the complete feel of this downtown area and the town that we grew to love. It's a quiet little quaint little town where we do have issues with traffic sometimes around rush hour. That's be normal with our typical streets being open with Main and Center. And just remember those names, Main and Center. I mean, those are our two main veins. You close those two down, naturally the engineering in the past was because those were our two main veins. That was where the traffic was supposed to flow. So when it hits outside, being an active recreational athlete like myself, I look at the safety concerns mainly like as being an avid cyclist and whatnot. When I'm coming through some of those intersections, like I was the other day, coming down the reroute when you got to, is that Wing Street? You got to go down and you got to take a left and on Dunlap, and you got to come up there. Well, there was people over the crosswalks. And so what I see as an individual walking their dog, I hear people beeping their horn. Automatically you have safety concerns. So people have to now, they got to cut through cars to get across the street. Not only are they terrified to do so, it's a major a safety concern. We know that your safety, your life's in danger at times. I mean, you're going across, what do? You're supposed to weave in and out of, go in and out of cars with a bike or walk with your dog. And then someone just in a hurry, bam, hit someone. All it takes is one time, guys, one life. Is it worth that risk? Is it really worth that risk just to increase some business for some of the few when we're trying to make things work for everyone? If we can look past that and look at the safety and the concerns of our future with the new construction and whatnot, I think we really got to take that into consideration. 8 Mile under construction, these surrounding areas, it's not going to get no better. It's just going to get worse. So that's my 2 cents. I hope it made some sense.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Nice evening.
Thanks. DJ.
DJ Ware, 249 Hutton, Northville, Michigan. I'm a native Northville, was born here in 1944. My family's 4th generation. My father was head of traffic and safety for all of Wayne County from the late 30s up until the 60s. He would be aghast at what has happened here. You can blame him, like it or not, but one thing, every time you turn off of 8 Mile Road and you do it at the wrong time and you see a sign that said you couldn't do it in the morning and you couldn't do it at night, that blame that on my dad. Okay?
Duly noted.
Anyway, what I would like to request is I live on Hutton Street. I live right across the street from the path going down into Ford Field. It is crowded with people walking their dogs in the morning, crowded with people enjoying the evenings, walking their dogs and turning and walking down the hill. As soon as you close those streets, the traffic coming down that hill in a 25-mile-an-hour zone is going 40 miles an hour. And it does not stop at the bottom of the hill. It just turns right or turns left. That's all it does. Somebody's going to get killed. And I'm requesting on record that you put in speed bumps coming down Hutton. Because now it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone with cars coming down at 40 miles an hour. And somebody's going to get killed. Thank you.
Thank you, TJ. Anybody else? That's okay. We'll catch up with you.
Good evening, Lenore Lewandowski, 119 Randolph Street.
Lenore.
So I was unable to attend the May 20th meeting because I had another commitment. But I did submit a letter to council for public comment. And the subject of that letter was the historic district guidelines. And so just to refresh your memory or let people in the audience know, the Historic District Commission, along with the City Council, engaged Kramer Design Group to design new guidelines for the historic district. They desperately needed to be updated. They had outdated building materials and just the drawings and stuff. So this is something that really needed to be done. When the city engaged Kramer Design Group, I was really thrilled when they said there was going to be public engagement, because I feel like we need to take ownership or buy into those historic district guidelines. I see a lot of people doing things around me and that don't get necessarily approval from the historic district. So I feel like it's important to engage the public. I have been very disappointed that Kramer Design Group has not really done that. They had one meeting at the very beginning where they explained what they were doing, and then they're presenting the guidelines again at the Historic District Commission meeting on June 19th. I have yet to see anything publicized on that. The public does not know. And I just think it's unfair that you're going to put these guidelines on people, residents and businesses, and not have that information published. So I had asked actually City Council if they could either send letters to people in the historic district, letting them know that these guidelines are going to be presented, and HDC will be voting on them. And as soon as they vote on them, they'll be sending them to you. So I think this is a very quick turnaround process because they do have a timeline, but I still feel like the community needs to know about these guidelines and to make sure that the document that they come up with is user-friendly and one that we can all comply with. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenore.
I did read your letter out
Yep.
loud.
Oh, did
Yep.
you?
I
Sorry.
did.
Read it at the last meeting. Yep.
I wasn't here.
Nice job.
Just-
Yep.
That's okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mary, are you making your way? Okay. Anybody at this point? We have one more. Great. On your right out there. I know you're a little taller than some of those. Go right ahead.
All right, there we go. Okay. Tim Hassey, 966 Springfield Court. So after our successful Peace Day, thank you for the support on that, Mayor. We have come together and planned another event. We're calling it the Juneteenth Symposium in celebration of the national holiday Juneteenth this month. And as we were planning it, we actually found out that at the Northville Library, right over there, they have their own event on Wednesday night with an Abraham Lincoln impersonator dressing up, teaching some history. Sounds really cool. Come out to that. Also at the Novi Library, they're doing their own thing Monday night. I can't quite remember the itinerary for that, but we scheduled our own thing actually at the Novi Public Library for 6:30 p.m. So I recruited 2 expert historians from Wayne State, where I teach and do my research, to put on this event. we will discuss the specific history behind Juneteenth, how that specific date, June 19th, became the day to celebrate the abolition of slavery. And we'll focus more, talking with them, they'll focus more on a people's history of June 19th. I'm a history buff myself, so of course in school you'll talk about the Compromise area, the Missouri Compromise, the Kansas and Nebraska Act, Dred Scott, all the battles, the Emancipation Proclamation, and the amendments. Well, we'll focus on, I think, more how ordinary people played a role in really coming together across all races and transforming society. The story of slave resistance, of slaves refusing to work and shutting down plantations, of slaves fleeing to the north, of ordinary people, white Americans helping them flee, as Southern slaveholders came into the north to return their slaves under the Fugitive Slave Act, how they shut down courthouses across the country so they could not have their property returned as it was at the time. So it's really to tell this story of how ordinary people came together to transform our country and make the world a better place, and to try to connect these issues to today, and to say that freedom for African Americans goes hand in hand with freedom of all people, everyone in this room as well. So hope you come out. Can I hand you guys flyers?
You can as you go by, and Dennis is, okay. And the date again is, you're giving it to us. Okay, June 18th, got it. So I got you in the record so people can hear it and hear it on the recording. Dennis, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dennis Enger, North, 999 Cold Spring, Northville. Most of you guys know me. I hope you know me, and I hope you know that from the very start, and I've been here almost 35 years, I love this town and I want whatever is good for this town. I love the fact that, oftentimes we close down the town and we have these events. They're great. Everyone loves them. I know there's a lot of controversy as to whether it should be permanently closed or 6 months and all that. And I'm open to hearing both sides. I always have been. I only want what's good for this town. And I think what makes the most sense, and I'm curious as to why it's never happened, as to why don't we allow the citizens to finally make a decision? Instead of one group making the decision, instead of a survey making the decision or the judge making the decision, how hard would it be to have a vote, a ballot, and allow the citizens who I think, most of us, really love this town. We want what's best for the town. Let's make it a democratic process and allow everybody to just say what's on their mind and cast a vote. That's how the best things in this country happen. And, and this contention that's between, the people that want to keep it open and the people that want to keep it closed, I think is unnecessary, because we, for the most part, agree on most of that. And I think we can come up with a great compromise of some kind, but I think it would really be helpful to have an accurate vote of what the citizens in the township, in the city really want. I know oftentimes it was said it was based on a survey a long time ago. Honestly, I live in the city. I've got other properties in the city. I never got a survey. So, I don't know where that came from. But a vote would be a simple thing, and it would be something that we could all get around and really decide, really see clearly what the citizens want, not what the council wants, not what a judge wants, not what, special, some little group wants. And I think most of the people in Let's Open Northville really, really want what's good for the town, and they just want to provide a voice of other options that, we should all look at. I think we're all saying the same thing. Let's get it down on, in numbers, clear numbers, so that we can all see what the majority of people want. I think that would be great. I don't know why it's not happening or hasn't happened up to this point, but I think going forward, instead of
fighting back and forth. It would just be a great thing for everyone to see once and for all what the city wants. It would be good for the judge, it would be good for the council, it'd be good for all of us.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it. Okay. No clapping, please. I appreciate that. But good points. Anything else? Anybody else? This would be your time before I close off public comment.
Hello, good evening. My name is Nazneen Mahmood, 17379 Park Shore Drive. Seems like I never pass up a chance to speak anymore. So I would like to commend what the gentleman before me recommended. I know I enjoy the streets closed, but I will accept whatever the majority vote on. And I would like to also speak up for Tim's wonderful program that he has put together. I mean, he knows so much more. I grew up in Detroit. I don't know as much about African-American history and slavery as he does. So I think this stands to really educate our community and breed deep respect and understanding for people's struggle for self-determination. So to make this, a place, not just a beautiful place to live, but a deeply, equitable place to live. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in council chambers that'd like to speak? Going once, going twice. I'm closing off public comment from in council chambers. We will go now, if you're following on the agenda, to the next area where we used to just have everything on the consent.
Wait, there's an item here, public comment. There was written communication received.
Written communication received.
No,
So
Well, just so
yeah,
it's,
you're right.
thank you.
Everything that came in on time, we have it in our packages. Everybody online has that. Very good point. So if we got it afterwards, we actually read that. So good.
and just as a
Good to
final
know.
note is a reminder to, George, if you could read the email address, because council received an email today, but it wasn't to the public comment address. So
You have that email address, what's the general email for public
The
comments?
email is publiccomment@ci.northville.mi.us.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Public comment.
okay.
Great.
Because sending it to council members, even if it's all of us, is not the public comment site. So,
Correct.
yeah.
And,
So,
and there's two different ones on purpose because sometimes people want to just send something to council, but they don't want it to get a part of
Yes.
the public record.
right.
And if it goes to public comment, it actually will become a part of the public record. It's like speaking in person.
Mhm.
It gets put on the web and some people don't want that to happen. So we specifically have it as a very clear direction to try to make
agree,
sure
yeah.
that we don't get someone upset that their email gets posted.
Yeah, so, and
too
at the opposite, if somebody sent it to all of
Yes.
us, I don't want them to be
Yes.
upset that
That
we
it wasn't
tried to
put on.
exclude it, right?
So choose wisely. You can have it come to all of us or come to all of us and the whole public. Know that out there.
And if you missed a meeting, you could always resend something to public
Yes.
comment and it will go on to the next agenda. There's not a right time or a wrong time. You just send it and it will be posted to the agenda at the next meeting as a public comment.
Excellent.
All right.
So now we will go on to section 5. Historically, everything on the consent agenda was just there. I've asked the city manager just to list those things that are on the consent agenda. They're very usually smaller type of things. If we think it's something is so important, we'll put it on the agenda, adjust it. But if you would do that, I would appreciate that, George.
Thank you, Mayor. We have the following items on the consent agenda for council consideration. Item A, City Council Minutes, May 14th, 2024, joint workshop session, regular minutes. May 14th, 2024, joint workshop session, closed minutes, session minutes. May 20, 2024, regular meeting minutes. B, consideration of receiving the bills list report accounts for the weeks of April 15, May 13th, and May 27th, 2024. Item C, consideration of approving a resolution in support of House Bill 5430 for the expansion of the Michigan State Historic Preservation Tax Credits established under Public Act 343 of 2020. Item D, consideration of awarding a professional services contract to Roofing Technology Associates in the amount of $8,100 for construction, inspection, and quality control services for the City Hall roof replacement project. Item E, consideration of awarding a contract extension to Nagel Paving Company for the 2024 Local Road Reconstruction Program in the amount of $172,845 with 15% contingency for a total of $198,771.75. Item 4, consideration of approving the equivalent purchase of a new V-Box salt spreader in the amount of $24,395 from Schultz Equipment of Ithaca, Michigan, and to further authorize the sale of the old V-Box salt spreader. Item G, consideration of approving the equipment purchase of one Konica Minolta BizHub C360i for the police department and one Konica Minolta BizHub CC650i for the city hall at a purchase price of $8,995.93 and $13,205.64 respectively from MBM Technology Solutions, and to further approve the disposal of the current copiers through MBM Technology Solutions. Item H, consideration of authorizing the DDA director to enter into an agreement for the purchase of a seasonal truck in an amount of not to exceed $20,000 and to authorize a budget amendment in the same amount. Item I, consideration of approving the request to close Ellesmere Drive between Cold Spring and Whitegate from 3 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. on Sunday, June 23rd, 2024 for the Pleasant Hills Neighborhood Block Party.
Big happening at Dennis's place, right, that night? Good.
Item J, consideration of approving the special event request of the Parks and Recreation to conduct the Tunes on Tuesday Children's Concert Series. Item K, consideration of approving the special event request of the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce to conduct the Independence Day Parade on July 4th, 2024 from 10 a.m. until noon. Item L, consideration of approving the use of $2,000 for the expansion of the Summer Music Series to add Sunday acoustic concerts to North Center Street this summer, and to further move the fourth quarter budget amendment be approved. Those are all the items on the consent agenda for council consideration.
I just wanted everybody to understand, there's a lot behind the scenes, but I know that was probably more than you wanted to hear, but a lot going on there, a whole bit behind. So I'm looking for,
Well, I have,
okay, if there's anything that you'd like
yeah,
to
just
add to that.
under 5A, I would like to move the May 2024 regular meeting minutes to the last item under new business, which is, yes.
Okay. Sounds good. We will do that because there may be some changes in Scribble Plus. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I don't have any problem with that. Any support to move that? Great. Any other changes? With that, I'm looking for a motion to go forward. Yes.
Motion to approve as amended.
Good. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Great. I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. So we have an amended agenda. We added something. So now we go to 6. We're really rolling presentations. We have no presentations tonight. 7, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. 8, unfinished business. We finished our business last time, thank goodness. So 9 is new business. So as I said early on, we have 3 new things and we just added one other. So we're going to go to 9A, consideration of the approval of the second reading and adoption of the proposed replacement ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances. This is timing and music and amplification. And at this time, I believe I have our city clerk. And if Lori's here to add anything, it's all yours, Mr. Smith.
Sure. Mayor and Council, thank you for having this discussion. During the last few months, administration has been working together to rewrite the Amusements and Entertainments Ordinance. We have drafted substantive changes to the amendment and feel it would be best to repeal the current ordinance and replace with the new formatted version to better coincide with the modern practices. We have provided the original version, which was attachment A, and the proposed draft ordinance that was proposed first reading back on, I believe it was May, is that 6th? Something like that.
I think so. Yes.
And then since then, we have the final draft that is before you, the second reading in the final version. We've had subsequent meetings, the new community development director, police chief, deputy chief, DDA director, and myself have met. We kind of discussed and went through some of the changes, through some of the dialogue that we had, and had some basic things that kind of changed. Within this final reading that is before you, we moved some of the items that were clearly definitions under the rules and regulations up into the definition portion.
Perfect. Yeah.
And we added a mention as well of, as Lori stated, that we needed to define the CBD, which is the central business district, more definitively in that. We also had the hours that we matched what was on the outdoor dining permit to match those hours the same. That was a key point. We added some discretion with the police department because that was what was brought up, to allow the police officers to have some discretion on the noise and things that were going along in there. Those are some of the keynotes that the police department did. Talked about the hours of operations, like I stated, and then we went through kind of shoring up some of the language with when the applications are due and their deadlines. And then we also discussed the final thing as to what would necessitate a potential suspension revocation, which just talked about, which we added some language in there, which was basically violating the hours of operation, excessive noise. So kind of short up some of those things as we had during the discussion. And that's what we felt is before you was the second reading.
Great. So no, this is a second reading on this. We heard a lot of things on the first. We modified this. This isn't wild and exciting, but it's timing, amplification, making sure we don't have multiple music things going on at the same time, updating the policies and procedures out there. So we listened to everybody on the first reading. This is the second one. So with that, I would open it up for any questions from council. Then if you have any comments, this would be your time on that. So first, council members. Anybody that has any comments on this?
No, I'm grateful that you walked through the differences between the first and second reading because we didn't have a red line, so.
Yeah.
I did see the definition, so I liked the second reading, but it was hard to say what exactly changed. other
Apologize
than
for that.
being-
Yes, that's why I wanted to go.
Right.
And then this is, there are many parts of our ordinances that are like this, that are antiquated
Yes.
and need updating. So
Absolutely.
I was very happy to hear that our new community development director may at periods of time be looking to areas of ordinances that
Right.
need to be updated.
Each and every one.
And this was timely because it was looked to in terms of how to deal with some sound issues downtown. I would like to say it's wonderful that we have a problem that there's too much music in different places and that it's loud, and so music is wonderful, but let's figure out a way to regulate some of that sound in a 2024 method. So, and we don't have any roller skating facilities right anymore.
We do
Yet.
not in the city yet.
So
Thank
anyway,
you.
so just
put that
thank
out
you,
there.
and I look forward to seeing more of these in the future.
Great.
Taking different pieces and. just
Right, piece by
updating them.
piece.
Yep.
That's part of the philosophy going forward. Others?
Nope, appreciated the updates in line with the discussions that took place. As has been noted, our ordinance was remarkably out of touch and
It was.
well overdue for an update. So overall, I think it's a good step forward and appreciate everybody coming together to work on it.
Super. Any other council members?
Nope, that
Great.
captures it.
I'm good. You have touched it. We're modernizing this. We're going through every ordinance. This would be the time, anybody from the public, come right up, give us your opinion on this. I know give us your words of wisdom. You live downtown and we're trying to make it quieter for you. Go right ahead.
Susan Plaga,
Hey, Susan.
112 East Main.
Absolutely.
Somebody tell me what the noise ordinance hours are. I was told they're 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. When you set up for your flower weekend, they started at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. setting up. The thing didn't start till 9 or 10. You think they need to be on the streets at 4 a.m.? I like to sleep at 4 a.m. And I'm right down center. I'm right in the middle of East Main. But 4 a.m. is a little much, guys, just a little much. 4 to 7, I heard them setting up. So tell me, somebody just tell me, what are the actually noise ordinance hours? Can anybody tell me that?
We'll get with you.
I've already got them.
You know it.
I
know the
already
answer.
got them. I got them right from our
What
chief
are
of
they?
police.
Right.
So I know what they are.
Right.
I will start calling.
That was a little early that day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot early. So
Absolutely.
That's all I got to say.
Yep.
guys.
Good point.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think it's been duly noted on that. They got a hold of the mayor. Anybody else on this? Going once, going twice? Okay, I'm closing off 9A, new business on the consideration, the noise and the activities that this is a second reading on. At this point, I'm looking for a motion to go forward. You have a sample motion in your package.
I move to approve the second reading and adopt the proposed replacement ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Amusements and Entertainments, Article 4, Dance Entertainment Premises as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
Support.
Okay, motion properly supported. Any other discussion on this? If not, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Go right ahead, clerk, on that. We're going to go to 9B, consideration of awarding a professional service contract to Fishbeck for a parking management study, a potential parking management study. It's all yours, Mike. Tell us about this.
Good
Not
evening,
only
Mayor and
us,
Council.
but those online too.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you is a professional service contract to perform a parking management study. If you recall, is a strategic priority for the city council is to look at our city's parking system. That was to take a look and make sure we have adequate parking and support for our visitors, businesses and residents. Also to study the system and take a look at paid parking versus non-paid parking. Take a look at parking enforcement, and then also just update our management plan and capital improvements. So we set out an RFP. It sat out there almost a month. The city received 2 bids on May 8th. Proposals, I should say, not bids. One was from Fishbeck, the other one was from Walker Consultants, which I apologize, I didn't include the other
What was the
proposal.
bid?
They were about 25,000 over Fishbeck. So we took a look at Fishbeck, myself, Justin and Lori. We sat down, met with Fishbeck, took a look at the proposal, their history. They have a history of performing studies like this throughout the region, Ann Arbor, Ferndale, very similar cities in our size and our demand of parking.
And then the whole SEMCOG area, I know they've done a lot.
Yep. So in their proposal, they'll be taking a look at our current inventory, look at the occupancy, taking data collection, the needs that we need, looking at the different types of parking that we have, the 2-hour parking, 3-hour parking, long-term parking. They'll be taking a look at that. Also be looking at our ordinances, see if there's any recommendations for updates or changes. And then the last thing is also looking at where we can improve, where we can maybe put more parking or make changes to our system. So with that, their proposal came in at $46,612. And I'm recommending we move forward with this professional services.
Great. So clarifying questions for our DPW director, Mike. Go right ahead.
Okay, Mike, you know I love you. All right, but a parking study now worries me because we have so much going on, just like the whole new ticket giving worries me because you're bringing so many people to town and then we're figuring out new ways to ticket them and this all. But it's the optics, I think, that worries me more with we've been accused of lots of things when it comes to parking and selling a parking lot for less than what we were supposed to. The new development not giving us an extra 53 parking spots. Now the streets are closed. I don't know what results we're looking for. I don't know if this is money well spent. Looking at ordinances makes me so happy you said that part, but again, I think Justin is gonna get on some of that stuff, but I don't know what we're looking for, like what bonds, grants will help us get that.
So,
Like to queue in
yeah,
first.
so I think that
Oh, yeah.
So I think that for us, we have a parking system that has one-time sources of revenue, but it has ongoing maintenance needs. So we have to sort of be able to figure out what are the ongoing needs of the system? What are the maintenance needs of the system? How do we do long-range planning for infrastructure? But also, what is the overall capacity? What's the shared use of it? There's lots of things, lots of information and data that we can get from outside experts to be able to do an assessment and say, this is what a parking system like yours should function like. This is how you'd pay for it. This is how sort of other cities pay for parking systems like yours. We hear a lot of things about the fact that, well, there's no parking. Well, it's good to have data on that. What does that look like? Do they mean there's no parking immediately available right next to where they want to park? Or does they mean there's no parking? So lots of information that we can make from policy decisions for the city, for the DDA to make decisions about how you run your parking system over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And the infrastructure, the system's going to need reinvestment in the future. How do we plan for that? How do we pay for that? And how much do we need? So I think it's a good time to do it because the system isn't getting any younger. And we do hear concerns about the need for parking, and we hear complaints about parking amounts.
I only disagree, George, about the timing is good because I think the timing is couldn't be worse because of what we have going on. But I mean, obviously I can be swayed, but I just think it's a tough one. I mean, and just make sure it's not the same one that that did this to Royal Oak, you know, that's where we have to. Just as long as that's on, but I struggle with the timing and what we're gonna do with the information right now.
Mike, I'll build on that. It looked like the area that was being covered only went south to Katy.
Yeah.
Through there.
Yeah.
So with so much that's gonna be happening south of Katy, to develop a long-term plan until we have all of that in place. I'm somewhat with Laura, I'm struggling on,
I can't remember.
either we change the scope of this and say what the real future statement
I've
look
got it
like.
pulled up. I can't.
That's, you know, because Katy will be part of the downtown within a year or two, you know, integrated fully. Or we adapt, maybe a new scope on the project. So I'm struggling.
So
with
the
that.
map that's in the proposal from Fishbeck, that was what they proposed to us. That was not in our proposal of the area they'll be looking at. So we'll be discussing with them, modifying it, looking further out than just.
Yeah, because what I would like to do, and I know this is a discussion for another time, is look at it, at least make the area within 600 feet of Katy.
Okay.
For many, many reasons. At a minimum, because if we're looking at what, you know, the planning commission agreed to and everything else that went past that, and there's a long story behind that that we can discuss another time. I think at a minimum, we need to include all of that in terms of developing something that's going to be more, let's say, comprehensive of where we'll be in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's on page 102 of their proposal. They'll be taking a look at all our developments that are scheduled and planned, such as everything on Katy.
I just wasn't clear based on the writing, if it was that map that was shown, or when they got into the list of the additional plans, does that mean that they're gonna provide something in aggregate that's beyond that
It's gonna
map?
be beyond it as well.
Okay. That was my must-have.
Good point. Other clarifying questions.
I've got a couple questions I'm gonna run through. One, you already touched on the map. So if we're saying that they're gonna modify the map and extend those, is that gonna have an implication on cost? Because what I wouldn't want to do is approve the plan, then adjust the map, and then them come back and say, we need another 15 grand because now we've expanded the scope of the project.
So the map is actually, I think what it is actually just inventory what we currently have.
Okay.
That's what it's identifying.
Okay.
We have slightly a little bit parking on the south side there. But that's why it's not highlighted.
So then that tees up my second question, and I've got 4, so I'm gonna hold for a second. On the
Pace
second
yourself.
one, first off, I completely agree. Let's do nothing like what was done in Royal Oak. So good point, Laura. That's a good what not to do plan. But second question, as we think about the spaces we need in our approach, how are they planning to address the growth and parking need that we will have within our community? And I'm not, yes, part of that is the downs, but I've seen stats that in the last 4 years, the surrounding area is up 25% in population. We can all see the developments around us. They're going to be coming downtown to eat. So will they be looking and modeling that increase in surrounding popularity or population and hopefully popularity, and how that's drawing people in, and then how we're going to work with that going forward?
Yes, and they'll be taking a look at, some of the studies and the results, plans that we get through SEMCOG and other communities as well, kind of incorporate it into that growth.
Okay, so they'll be leveraging the SEMCOG growth models as part of that. Third one is enforcement. So you kind of noted it, but we are changing our enforcement policy. I'd want to make sure, since that's being rolled out and we're going to be forgiving, so it isn't trying to be a money raise, but we are going to be trying to turn those spots over more quickly that are closer and redefining that process. So having them incorporate that in, because that's going to change potentially the needs as well.
Yes. Yep.
And then the fourth item, and I know Lori was already referenced as a DDA as part of the collaboration and coordination. But if we think about our parking committees, our DDA planning, and obviously DPW, how the parking study is going to interact, not just with us as council and give us a report back, but with each of those entities, because obviously they're in ground zero working on it.
Yep, and that's why I'm requesting for the full amount of 46. The actual proposal price came in at 43. There was an optional at 50% of the management plan to do a workshop with the community.
Okay.
That would be.
Perfect.
So that's why I included that in the cost.
And then the one positive, because we've actually harped on this in the past that I did want to highlight is the fact they're headquartered in Michigan and have a primary location in Novi, because I think understanding our community is very important as part of that. So as we were looking at the two options, I do think that was a good thing I'd like to point out and call.
Comment about that.
Come right up to the
Are you
mic
gonna take away my one positive? I was
So
trying
they
to
can-
end on.
so they can hear you at
Sorry.
home. Right in the microphone, Lori.
We had a chance, Justin and Mike and I, to meet with the consultants, and the team of Fishbeck came from WGI, which did our last parking study a couple of years ago. They inventoried the existing structures and they came up with a 20-year life plan for them and mapped it all out. And it's primarily the same team has now gone over to Fishbeck. And so they're very familiar with the community and spent a couple of years in here working with us. So that gave us a lot of comfort.
Thank you, Lauren.
Barbara, do you have anything to add?
For a different reason or way of thinking about it, I do think the timing of this is good because we need to look at our parking. We need to understand how much parking we have, where it is. And to the extent it is it is a facility that we maintain or we maintain it for others because we lease it. We need to have a sense of that, right? And we did lose a lot of space, we were on borrowed time along East Katy for the dirt lots that we never owned, but we used them, right? And of course, now that's all going to be developed and then we didn't get 53 spaces that we should have. So all of that, what do we have? But in terms of the area under study, rather than putting something an artificial, like, oh, it's this far or end at this street, I believe in the industry for thinking about walkability. People park and they walk to where they're going. It's how far will they walk? So you pick a point and then you say, well, I think one of the metrics is it's a 5-minute walk. So where does that take you? And it does take you into the residential because I live on, as you know, High Street. People park on High Street all the time. They park on High Street for using these facilities and the library and also downtown. So that 5-minute walk includes not only surface space, surface lots, but also on-street parking. So I would suggest rather than a little delineated map, pick a point, and I would think DDA, you and DDA working together would be a center point and say, what's a 5-minute walk? And that becomes your perimeter of your, parking, available parking spaces. The one, and I'm heartened to hear that they have some knowledge of Northville. And also, I know I've heard of them before as being good in conducting parking studies just as a firm. But there is a difficulty of people coming in and thinking they know our town. I think back to the non-motorized plan and just on one item when they were talking about parking in residential areas and they were taking out on-street parking for bike lanes. And they said, well, nobody uses those anyway, except for a big special event. And I'm like, where did you come from? Because they park all the time on those streets. People going downtown just casually. So I know they're going to look at that prior work, but I think having really good dialogues with our city staff will be very important to understand how do people really use our parking spaces here. So the other is if they could look at ADA accessibility issues in terms of where do we have our handicaps? Is that part of their scope?
It's part of their proposal.
Good.
Yep.
And also we have in not all, but many places, we have time parking, like it's 2 hours or it's 3 hours. So a reassessment of that,
Yes.
which would make sense in line with the work being done by the police department with
Enforcement
that.
function. Yep.
So I'm disheartened that it costs so much money, but it is what it is. But I know that I obviously did not look at the RFP and it wasn't in the package, but certainly what they describe in their scope of work is a lot, and particularly do we have it in GIS now?
We don't.
So that's gonna be in the system, another layer in the system, right?
Yep.
So another
We're gonna
layer,
get another layer of GIS.
Right,
of
which
all-
is-
Yep, of our.
which is really good, because we've been adding that. So I look forward to it. I think the timing is good. We need to understand our inventory and our short and long-term costs and planning.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
thank you.
Just to add to that, I spent last week looking at
opportunities up on the policy conference. There are grants for economic development with SEMCOG for parking activities. We have 2,200 spots in Norfolk. None are very good. You know, we have to see what do we need to do, and do we do additional decks? Do we do underground? Do we do additional parking down River Street? I'd like to see all that as an old data guy. What are the options out there? So, and we can't pay for it. We need assistance on that, you know, in the future. So from my standpoint, we need partners to help us as we come up with decisions. But we have a lot of spots. None are very good in the city, but we have a lot of spots. You know, people, you know, come here and they have a lot of spots, but they have to be within that 5 minutes, and we have to have the turnover and whole bit. So I, for one, like to always look at different options out there. So with that, I'm sure there's somebody in the audience. If you have any comments, this would be the time. And even if you spoke before, you can speak again. This is a separate topic. Go right ahead, Jeff.
Number one, I assume the DDA is paying for this. Isn't this for downtown parking?
Never assume.
I'm just asking because this is a question. Is the DDA paying for this?
You want to take questions or?
So it's not really questions, but
Ask him a question.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, no.
It's a parking fund that we have built up, but this isn't a Q&A, but it's a great question. And we'll let you know exactly whether it's city
I thought DDA was
and
supposed to
DDA.
pay for everything that,
Right on the parking structures, yes.
not citizens. So if it's a parking fund that was.
Right.
But the deposits were made by DDA, okay, I get that. But
Right.
you would want that information to be very clear right now before I'm sure you voted.
Yes.
The second thing is I still think it's too premature. I mean, I with all due respect, Mayor Pro Tem, man, there's just a lot going on, you know, doesn't it make sense to wait, you know, a year and really get a good feel for what's going on? You know, before we just jump into a study that you all, through all your questions right now, there were a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, yeah, I think we're covering that. And with all due respect to you, there's a lot of unanswered questions. You ought to know, y'all should know exactly what you're voting for and not have to be up here asking questions. It should have already been presented to you. That's just a note. Maybe it's time actually for the dust to settle before we move on to this, right?
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Water it.
I want to ask about a parking spaces. I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, on Griswold down to the edge of Beale Street. One day all of a sudden these stripes appeared. And from the first stripe near Beale Street to downtown is more than half a mile. And it's all uphill. It doesn't meet the 5-minute criteria or it probably meets the criteria to Griswold, you know what I mean, to where some commercial spaces up there, but it certainly doesn't meet that criteria. And I'm hoping that's part of the question. And Mayor, you just mentioned River Street parking. You were just joking, I assume, right? Adding.
So I'd like to always see opportunities by that bioswale 10.4 acre.
What about some maybe in your neighborhoods?
That's
That would be
correct.
where they should have them, and maybe a shuttle service.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
They park
And
over there.
With all due respect, I mean, I've got 33 seconds.
Yeah.
I was almost killed riding my bicycle and I hit a truck hole, I don't know, probably 6-7 weeks ago on, where was it on Orchard. I mean, I ride my bicycle through town because I try to stay off Hines Park because it's dangerous on Hines Park because of people texting. $40-some thousand, and I'm sure it's a parking fund, but it's going to be bad optics voting for that. I've got to keep my eye on it. There's 1,000 freaking holes in this town that need patching. It's not going to look good to residents if you guys keep spending all that money. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Right. Anybody else? DJ Ware. I've checked in for him.
DJ Ware, 249 Hutton. I don't know how to word this without being questioned. So disregard the question. I'm trying to find out where I get information as to an ordinance or anything of how long a building can take to be built. I lived in a Hutton and it took 5 years for what's behind me to be built on Center Street. I now come down Center Street near Caddy and I watch these elevator towers going up and just sitting there. And so there must be a place to find out, is there an ordinance and does somebody have to start a building and completed within a certain amount of time? Or can they just go on forever? Thank you.
We will get back with you, TJ. I missed you. Oh, no, go ahead.
Talking about the park repeater. You ready for this?
You can say your name again, even though they know
Susan
it.
Palaga.
Yeah.
We know it.
The parking, I pay to park, right? I'm told I can park in lot A, lot 1, whatever you want to call it. They're now gonna tear up the street there, and I'm told I have to find someplace else to park. I pay to park. Remember that. Now you're telling me I can move my car every 2 to 3 hours. I live downtown. I'm not getting up every 2 to 3 hours to walk down steps, to walk across the street, especially in the winter, at 68 years of age. You guys gotta think that straight before you even think about the every 2 to 3 hours, especially for residents who pay to park. And don't tell me, like the girl downstairs told me, you only pay from 3 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning. The rest of the time is free. Let me tell you, $120 a year is a lot of money for 2 hours. And I'm not happy, as usual. It's the only time you hear from me, Brian, is.
I know, I like it. I like it. Thank you, Susan. Anybody else here in council chambers? Going once, going twice? I'm closing off public comment on that. We've had our questions answered out there. Do you have a motion in that? And no, I'm going to do a roll call motion on this and a vote here in a second, but you have a sample motion in your package. And I would ask for that to go forward at this point in time. Anybody want to jump on that motion?
I'll take it. I move that city council award a professional service contract to Fishbeck for the 2024 parking management study in the amount not to exceed $46,612. I further move that the Director of Public Works be authorized to sign this contract on behalf of the city.
So we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion? I will support the motion to go forward. I can do that as a mayor. I don't do it very often. We will go from there. So we have a motion properly support. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay. Clerk, if you could do a roll call vote on that one, that would be great.
Sure.
Carter? Yes. Janetti?
No.
Krenz?
No.
Morosky Brown?
Yes.
Turnbull?
Yes. Okay, so we will go to the next one, 9C, if you're looking at that. Consideration of resolution, authorization, application, and implementation of the Michigan Shared Streets and Spaces Grant. We have Wendy here, and we have the sustainability as your backup. Go right ahead. I think you have a couple slides, and they should be able to see those slides online too.
I do.
Are we ready, Ken?
Stand by.
Stand by. We almost have liftoff.
There you go. I can't do a presentation without graphics.
Great.
So
Good.
we've got a few things here for you. This evening, we are asking for approval of a resolution to allow submission of a grant to the Michigan Shared Streets and Spaces Grant Program. It's an MDOT program, and we would like to request funds to help finance pedestrian mid-block crossings adjacent to the proposed Northville Downs development. I'm going to review information about this grant and what is proposed in terms of the work. And then with council support, there is a resolution attached to your memorandum that would need to be passed this evening if you choose to move forward with this particular funding request.
Okay.
Okay, next slide, please. First of all, a little more about this grant. The Michigan Shared Streets and Spaces Grant Program, as I said, is an MDOT program, and it's designed to help communities look differently at their streets, look at them more than just thoroughfares for vehicles, but as civic places with a range of uses for all.
This is a one-time appropriation that has been set for this program. It's $3.5 million, and that is statewide. So it's not 3.5 million seems like a lot of money, but it's really not when you look statewide. What the program looks for is quick build projects that would make communities more walkable, bikeable, and transit and micro mobility friendly. The maximum grant amount is $200,000. There is no local match required. Applications are due this Friday, and the grant, I think, was given a real short turnaround kind of on purpose. That helps to limit the number of applications. It also ensures that it's something that people are applying for things that they already have had in the pipeline. Grant agreements would be available by September. And so these particular improvements could be implemented as soon as next summer. And projects must be completed by September 30th of 2027. Next slide, please. So what we're proposing with this is that we look at 3 mid-block pedestrian crossings associated with the Downs project. These 3 crossings are in the Downs development agreement. And what that means is the developer will partially fund each of these particular crossings. So we're looking at the Katy Street connection to the downtown. This will be important for encouraging walkability from the Downs development into the downtown back and forth. We're looking at the pedestrian crossing proposed for Fairbrook and Center Street. This is one that we're looking at because of the extension of Fairbrook and the amount of traffic that goes along Center Street. We want to make sure we have a safe connection on that intersection. And then the third one is 7 Mile at River Street. And this would be right at the location where the new trails from the park will come out onto Center Street and cross over to the trails that are in existence. It's the Hines Park Trail, I believe. Right. And so this is a real important one from the standpoint of the amount of traffic on 7 Mile, as well as the ability to use fully the pathway system that we're looking at implementing. Next slide, please. Okay, now there are some recommendations in this grant for the type of crossings we'd be looking at in each of these locations. The reality is we're not really sure what the exact design will look like. We haven't done the engineering yet. We have done enough from the standpoint of studies and evaluating what's happening from a traffic standpoint to know that we're quite likely to need the types of facilities shown here. But the exact design is something that will develop over the course of the engineering. So what we're looking at this point in time is for the Katy Street crossing, we're looking at high resolution pavement markings and signage. So that's basically a pedestrian crosswalk with some additional signage, some more robust signage so that people are more aware of the pedestrian crossing than you might typically be at like a residential intersection. We're estimating those to cost $34,000. In the development agreement, the developer is committed to $20,000 towards that, so the grant would be funding $14,000. For the intersection of Fairbrook and Center Street, we are looking at something called an RRFB, which is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So we have Claire Martin here from OHM, and she's going to be available to answer some of the technical questions if we need her to.
Great.
And that is, it is a pedestrian crossing as opposed to a vehicle stoplight. And so we're looking at that being in the range of $108,000. The developer commitment there is $90,000. So the grant we would be asking for $18,000 for. Then the final one is the Hawk signal, which is proposed for the crossing of 7 Mile at Riverwalk. And Hawk is a high-frequency pedestrian activated crosswalk. So that is integral to a traffic signal, correct, Claire?
It's its own standalone.
It's,
Right.
okay, it's its own standalone signal, but it makes traffic stop and it's pedestrian activated. And so it's a more robust type of structure. And so of course, the cost is reflective of that. We're estimating that at about 198,000. The developer has a contribution of $30,000. So this is really the big one we're looking to the grant to fund at $168,000. Okay, you can go to the next slide, please. So one of the things we did is the reason we're looking at these three particular intersections is we have some money for them already, and they were identified as key intersections as part of the development plan process and through various discussions throughout the years. But the other thing is we've had a number of different transportation related plans over the last couple of years. And so we kind of look back at those just as a bit of a touch point to make sure we're sort of heading in the direction that we'd like to. From the non-motorized transportation plan standpoint, that plan does have a recommendation for pedestrian crossing improvements at Center Street and Fairbrook, as well as the 7 Mile Road and River Street. Now, it doesn't recommend a crossing at the Katy Street pedestrian crossing, but it recommends one at Hutton and Katy. And so that's really close. So the pedestrian plan does acknowledge the need to get people across Katy right in between, what would it be, Center and Hutton. So then we looked at the downtown pedestrian study, and that recommends pedestrian crossing improvements at Center Street and Fairbrook again, and then at Katy Street. Now, just because it doesn't address the 7 Mile Road and River Street doesn't mean that's not an important intersection, because the downtown pedestrian study didn't look that far. So it's outside the scope of the study. So I think we can assume if they had looked further, they would probably agree that that's a pretty important thing at 7 Mile and River from a pedestrian standpoint. We also had a wonderful team of residents who has done some extensive study over Mobility Network team, and they put together a study that has some recommendations as well. And we actually have Nancy Darga here, who's going to speak a little bit to the Mobility Network's position on these, as well as some other things that the team would like City Council to keep in mind moving forward. So if you could go to the last slide, please. Okay, and then we'll ask Nancy to come up here. Once Nancy has spoken some, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you very much, Wendy.
Thank you.
Nancy Darga, it's all yours. For those person who do not know me, I'm Nancy Darga, the co-chair of the Mobility Network team with Dave Gutman. Dave, you want to raise your hand higher than that? Oh, thank you. Part of the team, and John Roby. John, where'd he go?
He was here a second ago.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
From the mobility team, who is our champion in encouraging safety, connectivity, inclusion of bikeways, and the dispersion of traffic flow to lessen congestion. So the mobility study that was conducted in 2020 and updated last year addresses all of these issues. And unlike the pedestrian study, we had no limits. If there's cars there, we looked at it, that sort of thing. The mobility team supports wholeheartedly the submission of this grant and applauds the city's effort to leverage funding to implement pedestrian safety measures in our street systems. But we're going to ask you not to stop here. The mobility team would like the city council and the city staff, particularly Wendy and Mike Domini, to further incorporate improvements to Center Street specifically, because that's our high priority right now, that integrates with the mobility plans. These recommendations for considerations are in no way to hold up this submittal. The submittal, we are saying, go, go, go for it all the way. But one of the things we want the city council and the city to look at is expanding the crosswalks that are needed. I love what, we love what Wendy just pointed out, that there's more to be done than what the grant is going to cover. We would like to see a crosswalk at Beale Street
because we know with all those townhouses along Beale that they're going to want to get to the post office and they're going to want to get to City Hall and stuff by crossing Center Street. We would like further careful evaluation of bike lanes along Center Street. This has been a very long analysis done by the mobility team. We want a parallel parking considered along Center Street because it'll slow traffic down, it'll add parking. And we feel that putting a bike lane along Center Street that doesn't go anywhere does not make sense on how to use the real estate of the road width. We also wanted to look at bike lanes along our, what John refers to as our periphery roads, 7 Mile, 6 Mile, those roads. And we would like to evaluate bike lane versus parking on very key roads. Center, as we said, is our first priority. Our other streets are Wing, River, Griswold to be examined. We support good bike lanes on the boundary roads. We would like to incorporate bump outs in the design of the pedestrians crossing with parking. And we're asking Wendy and Mike and OHM. Are you listening, Claire? Make sure. I want to see those notes. Anyways. Along in the design. But mostly this is one of the things that we were grappling with Hunter Pasteur on. And we would like to see the sidewalk on the east side of Center Street widened to either a minimum of 8, but preferably 10 feet along Center Street. Because when you come down Sheldon Road on that multi-use trailway there, we need them to be able to have the width and the girth to continue to the downtown area. And those are not professional bikers that use that path. We're talking about, joggers, strollers, parents with the, they're dragging the little carts with their kids in it and stuff like that. And we think that that is crucial that we look at the width of that particular side of the sidewalk on the street. The mobility team would like to meet with OHM again. We really appreciate how they met with us before. We had a very productive meeting and looking at the design of the roundabout and specifically our concerns of Wing Street as it comes into 7 Mile Road. And I know that the St. Lawrence Estate folks really appreciated how we're looking and trying to study to keep traffic flowing or allow for breaks for them to get out of their cul-de-sac design system. I want to once again thank you for allowing us to present our ideas and the support that you've given us. And I want to really let you know that we are so happy that you took the stand of looking for leveraging outside funds to make pedestrian improvements to our streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Both of you up there, any questions for council members from, let's start with you, John.
Yeah, I've got one, and Nancy, this might actually end up being
Just
directed
stay right
at
there,
you,
Nancy.
So, I do have a question, actually. I'd like to get a little bit of a better understanding on the recommendations around center, parallel parking, the bike lane, and how we could best utilize that. I don't think we need to spend that on now, but I might catch Nancy, Dave, or John just to get some thoughts, educate myself a bit more on options available on that perspective, because there's some neat stuff that's being done in local communities that connect parking, bike lanes, sidewalks, and bring that all together. I also take offense that I use that section, and I do consider myself a professional biker or cyclist.
We appreciate that. With the spandex on, it's okay. Let it go, John. Okay, you're getting older. Go ahead.
So outside of that one, I'll end any suspense. Yes. I mean, if we can get these intersections funded by grant combined with the developer funds, this is a great thing. We should be fighting for it. We should be going for it for everyone, especially one like this that doesn't have a local match. The one question though that I want to highlight, and I know it's not directly related to these three, but I'm going to use every chance I can to talk about it, is the southbound stub road and the exit. So just another opportunity to bring that up as a priority as we think through how this all comes together. And the way I'm going to fit it into the discussion is we've got 198,000 on the Hawk Light there for that intersection of 7 and River. Obviously, if we bring that stub, we're going to be redesigning potentially that entire exchange. And so that 198,000 that we would spend for that Hawk Light, would we still be able to leverage that down the road when we extend, because we are going to, the southbound exit from the Downs and connect in? Do we envision that being part of the final plan?
Dan, I'm still seeing it as a viable need.
If I understand.
Up to the microphone, John. John, right to the microphone.
Mention your name. Yeah, mention your.
John Roby, 511 West Dunlap, and
Just
in everybody's pocket about all this stuff.
Not in our pocket.
not in the heads.
In our
heads.
On John's question, last question, to my knowledge, the crossing
Yep.
is over towards River Street. That's where the Hawk Light goes. You will continue to need that Hawk Light.
Right, regardless.
If we succeed, please, with the Heinz roundabout, likely will not need hawks there because the cars will be slowed there by the shape of the roundabout. But that is an interesting discussion and fight we would have and still have to finish on the big, what Brian calls the big roundabout at Sheldon. So did I answer that part clear enough?
I think so. So what we're ultimately saying is if we've someday got big roundabout, we have that crossing coming down, the Hawk Light would still be a viable option because that's going to be a pedestrian path and still be well used as part of the final plans.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you got something else on the way.
Did that answer?
No, but I think we all can
You got it.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank John Robies for all of his graphics that helped me tremendously to understand the flow through the system, not only along a 7 mile, but up center. They're really helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions for council members?
Yeah, in terms of, I want to go, on this, if you, so this is a question, a bit for OHM. So I'm fully supportive of all of these, hearing, this isn't the first time we've seen these. This was all part of what was discussed during the preliminary and final site plan to make sure all that was in. And so I'm glad this is moving forward. I thank you very, very much for going with this grant. I'll address that in a moment, but I want to look at the roundabout. So is there a way to blow that up? So OHM came to us on the roundabout with their concept and got feedback on it. And there were 2 areas addressed. One, they were going to come back with how they're going to address the wing, right? Because that was, remember, it was just drawn on, thought it could work kind of thing. And it was really showed great progress, but they were going to come back whenever that was final. And then I think there was something with the middle as well. But the other is that what we were shown at city council was there was an island going all the way almost to Fairbrook. But what I'm seeing now, and we were concerned about that, and mobility was concerned about that. I was concerned about that, but they said, well, we're not really sure. We know we need a refuge island at the roundabout, but we don't know how far we want to go up. I'm very heartened that when I look at the picture blown up, it looks like it doesn't have that island going up the middle all the way.
I will say, this is an outdated plan as far as the roundabout goes. This graphic is from the presentation that
First one.
FNB gave as a part of their traffic mitigation. during the
Okay, so I'm hoping this is actually closer to the updated roundabout plan. So I guess what I would ask for is that can we soon have
Get an
wherever
update
they're,
on the
get an update on the roundabout in the, particularly, I think they were still working on how they were going to design the center. But it was really that going west to that Wing 7, you know, that St. Lawrence Estates, and then also looking at something less than what was in that concept for going all the way to Fairbrook. And that comes into play for what you do here, right? So at Fairbrook and Center. So that was just the other, and this is not, a spilt milk, but just a consequence of, as you recall, I voted no on the development agreement. Well, you weren't here, George. But one of the reasons is that, because these were all in the development agreement. But when we negotiated it, it was based on old estimates, bids, 2019, one said plug, and I said, well, what does that mean? Oh, it's just an estimate, because we're going to share the costs. Not so much. So when the development came in, there was no built-in inflation. It was not whatever the cost estimate is. It'll be proportional to what was agreed to. So some of this on these, we have to go for the grant because it's no longer proportional because their cost is fixed and ours has gone up that we have to cover. So there are consequences. That's one of the consequences, you know, from that development agreement. It is what it is, but I hope we get this grant, and I want to thank you so much for going for it. You know, this particular one. What do you think our odds are? I don't know what the competition is.
I don't know, and I really need to give Claire and OHM the credit for that.
Oh,
They're the one who identified the funding source and, you know, suggested this particular project, and they're really putting together the most of the grants. So I want to make sure the credit falls where it should. But we talked about what we think the likelihood is, and we don't have any way to know because this is a one-time funding source. You know,
It
we
just
don't
is.
know
It's not any.
who it just is. Looking at the grant requirements, I feel like we've got a strong project.
Yeah, you
here.
did a good summary on that, and it looked good.
It's an interesting one because only cities and transit agencies are allowed to apply. So like townships and counties cannot. So that cuts out a lot of applicants. But it could be like that, the last DNR application where everybody in the state applied and only, you know, 2% got it. So.
Because if I went back,
know.
if I went back to our old planning when we were looking at all of this way back when, there was a suggestion of a TAP grant. That was from 2022. So I guess if we don't get this one or we don't get enough, we just have to go for another one.
That's an option for
Right.
that River Street crossing, especially if you then extend the pathway along the south side of 7 Mile. It would be included in a TAP grant for that.
And there will be opportunities with TAP grant and others with SEMCOG and with economic development and whatever. I spent most of last week, 4 or 5 hours on these different things on roundabouts and on traffic mitigation. And with the economic development folks, it's good and bad sometimes. We're in both counties, so economic development on Wayne County and Oakland County and the state of Michigan. We're there in many things. As we talk parking, why did I speak positively on that parking activity? Because I need the data to ask for the $1 million from the economic development. So that was about a 2.5 hour meeting up at Mackinac Island on that. You know, sleep is overrated. But from that, we need the data to ask for the grants. We couldn't do what we're doing in the city. Got $8.5 million of grants last year. All the things that everybody's doing, we're trying to fund that outside the taxpayers. And I appreciate that. That helps me go to those meetings armed, and all of us, when we're representing the city, we are doubling down on what we can do in the future. We can't depend on just Hunter Pastor or the developer or the city. We have to get those funds. So thank you. And that was another reason that I went wild on this, but why I voted yes on the parking, because I need that data to get the grants to go forward.
Yep.
A little bit. So thank you. That's all I had. So from that, is there anybody from the audience have any input on this tonight? Going once, going twice, holding it off. It should be a win-win on this, but I'm looking for a motion to go forward that you have in your package from council members. You have a sample in there.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing application and implementation of a Michigan shared streets and spaces grant.
So we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion? We have support for that motion. And other discussion on this? I believe we can do this straightforward. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Great. And we added one item, I believe it's on notes, isn't it?
No, it's the May 20th, 2024 minutes. And it's kind of an odd one because I can't make the change because it's not normally done that way. But what we have, so on page 1 of the draft, you go to the bottom and there's public comments.
Okay.
So there were 2 types of public comments. One was the in-person public comments, and those are summarized succinctly right there with the bullets. And then there were also 2 persons that submitted written comments, and I read those. Remember, so I read, not
Right.
that,
At the meeting,
so,
you read.
right, I read them. Now, I was reading as though they were at the podiums.
Mhm.
So I looked to the clerk to add those 2 names, which she has.
Yep.
The information is submitted, and just add, just like this, a very brief summary of what their topic was.
Great.
So that's what I'm requesting. So,
Legal, are you good with that? Adding their names on that?
yeah,
Good.
because I didn't know
Okay.
how I could, because the clerk always does public comments, right? So that was
Great.
that.
I have no objection to that. What's another one?
That's it.
Excellent.
I would like to discuss something about the minutes though.
Okay.
Because I just want to get
Okay,
people's
sure,
feedback. So, what I like in the minutes is the minutes are really a good summary of what was presented to us in terms of each of the topics, because it's copied right out of the agenda or the front page, like the memo. So that's great, because it's like, it's not like crib notes. What were they talking about? I need to go back to the packet. It's very good. But what happens is anything council discusses is barely a sentence. So we might have had a roundtable discussion and there were I like that they're summarized, like council discussed this or that, but it's so bare bones that it doesn't capture what council talked about. So I would just like to see a little more focus on what council's discussion on a topic was without a lot. But I don't know if I'm the only one here that's reading it that way when I see
I
them
think
in
if we
general.
can, I mean, I'll use the parking discussion we just had. There was a lot of nuanced discussion, really good points raised on that. So I would appreciate the minutes capturing that to show that if someone goes back, looks at a topic, doesn't think it was naturally one way or the other, but can actually see, here's what was discussed, here's some of the implications, here's some of the asks of things that could be considered or incorporated if we can capture that. I know minutes are always tough to gather and capture, but the more we can reflect those nuances, I think the more it tells the story of what was discussed if we look at
And
it.
of course, we record every one of these meetings too, if you want every,
But there's a lot of people
detail.
that look at the minutes. So
Right.
they don't want to go back and
right.
really sit through a meeting, but they look at the minutes. I'm surprised at how many people do. And I'm not looking for a repetition of what, or mean to infer everything we said. I think the summaries are good. It's just they're so bare bones. Yeah.
I just think that it becomes a challenge to say where to stop the ending point. And then it becomes, I've had people at this, we've said, I think we have to say this quote, what I said, and then it can go into more detail and more detail. And then you can sort of keep chasing this further and further. And I think that we do have a video, we have the diligent process that records it all verbatim. And this just says what was said, and then it just go back to the videotape and watch it, and you can watch a full replay of it. I think we're asking staff to use discretion, and then where's the ending point of how far you go? And how much staff do they spend? Time do they spend on
Well,
it?
George, I'll take an exception on that because I haven't heard anybody asking for something to be repeated. I know you've said to me before that happens with other councils you've been with, but nobody's asking for it to be exactly as what we said, and we're not quoting. I mean, if you go back to the minutes, there's some that are like 2 bullet points that are barely a full sentence. And there was a lot of discussion. And so I'm just saying that it captures it. That's all.
Have you had people ask you for more meat and potatoes in the minutes?
No, but I know if they read it, because they wouldn't know. How would they? So they think, well, that's all that was said. So how would somebody, you know what I mean? So nobody said to me, what, that's all you guys said? What are you, a bunch of nitwits that you don't have good discussions or something?
So I've seen it I'm the chair of the Conference of Western Wayne with the 19 communities, and they're pretty 40,000 foot level. But there's detail, especially on the recordings. I like the detail. I'm one of those, I actually go back and I listen to everyone just so I knew what was mentioned. And I think our people that are online or here or not here, our citizens can do that. I'm okay with the detail that it's at. I'm just saying from my standpoint, I've kind of bounced it off of others in the community. If you want a detailed answer, I always want a big asterisk for a detail, go to this website, go on it. So that's my opinion from what I've heard and what I've experienced out there. It's probably a little bit less than it used to be right now.
Well, it's actually, the minutes are longer because there's block copy. 80% of it is block copy.
Yes,
So they look longer, but they're not.
right. In
terms
detail,
of-
the detail isn't in there. It's just
Well, I mean, there's,
duly noted. Why don't you take a look?
yeah.
We
just-
might have a compromise in between those two.
One consideration, we don't have to decide now.
Yes,
I mean,
no.
I think this is just giving
Yes.
feedback. But
Yes.
one thing we could do is instead of trying to play the game of guessing what level of detail to incorporate, just call out when that topic was discussed within the video. So that if somebody
Right.
doesn't want to listen to a 3-hour meeting, but
That's
wants
easy
to
to
go
do.
to minute,
Don't you think, Ken?
find out.
Oh, that
topic.
Link the time code of the video.
Yeah.
Oh, that would,
Yep.
but is that more work?
You can forward that link.
Okay,
Great.
What's the new diligence platform?
well, that would
Yeah,
be
I think
great.
if we can, I think that solves a
That's
lot
my
of it. 'Cause That
impression.
way, if somebody does want to find a piece, we want to be
Excellent.
transparent.
We'll always put that in there so they can go right to it. They don't have to listen to 2 or 3 hours
Yeah.
of it.
And I bring,
Not that they don't want to.
because there were ones in here where I saw where it actually wasn't my discussion. It was 2 other council members, which was
Right.
a really good points. I can't edit minutes to what somebody else said, right?
Right.
I mean, so I can't do that. So I can't say, oh, you left out because my fellow council members made a great point and I don't even see it written here. So anyway.
So do we need a motion to add what you just mentioned?
Yeah, you can have a public
open topic.
Yes,
We
you
added to
can.
The agenda.
We haven't gone to the motion yet.
No, it's a quick thing about public comment. So for the May 20th meeting specifically, I knew of people who, by the way, Lori Johnson,
I got it.
47234 Dunsany Road.
Yep,
Thanks.
we got you.
And I was going to come back to you directly, and I haven't had a chance. There were people who reached out to me that said they submitted letters on the public comment mailbox. And then I didn't see them in the packet. And I haven't had a chance to come back to you, Mike, to say that, but one specifically was from our daughter and it still hasn't appeared anywhere in the packet. So some of those letters may or may not be coming through correctly, and people who submit them don't know that. So the other suggestion that I thought maybe should be talked about is Barbara Marasco Brown, last meeting, you did read a couple of letters and say who they were from, but maybe even to just at the meeting at public comment, say we received letters from A, B, C, D, E people, so that then they can check off that, okay.
Or we'll
well, it
have
was
the
received.
clerk read, we got
Just the
these
gist of,
6
here's the ones
from
we
these
got them
people.
from.
Okay. So they
Because
know,
again, I know of people
Yep.
specifically
I think
who
that's fair.
said they submitted letters. I know for a fact that my daughter did, and I
Yes.
still haven't seen it anywhere. And she wouldn't have known that had I not been paying attention. So.
I think that's
it.
fair. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good.
No, yeah.
Yeah. This is official public input.
Yes, but when I
Public
sent my letter in, and I sent it in late, I admit it. I did a good response right away from City Hall that said, we received.
You
your-"
did, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and I did it through that public.
So we'll
comment.
have to look at the process on that
Yeah.
one. That
So
didn't,
I don't, and I
somehow.
made sure I did it through that public comment. I had to look for it. I have to say, you had to kind of make sure you did it the right,
right,
look for that specific link,
great.
on the meeting agenda, I think it was.
Yep, we'll take a look at
But
that.
yeah, I did
why
get
that
it,
one might have
because
fell
I was
through.
worried too that my letter didn't come through.
And it was in the package in the whole thing.
I didn't see it though. I didn't,
Oh, okay.
I don't, you said you read it, but when I'm looking at the meeting minutes from that meeting, I don't see anything about my letter. So
Well, so those are the 2 that I mentioned. That's why I'm
Right.
amending the minutes
Okay.
because they weren't, but I did read both of them.
okay,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
so
And they
Good.
should be a part of the packet on the website. I think.
It should be.
I didn't re-download.
Anybody else in the audience going once, going twice? Thank you very much. Good comments on that. Well, we are looking forward for a motion to accept your scribble notes
Well,
and really.
I move to approve the May 20th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as amended.
Support.
So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? I think we do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All not, say nay. We have the input for those notes into the record. Good, legal, good. Okay, so let's go to number 10, Mayor and Council Communications. I already mentioned last week was an outstanding week for the city. Wife wasn't very happy I was gone 4 days, but spent a lot of times with economic development, a lot of people on Mackinac Island. I need all the data to ask for the different grants. We got $8.5 million worth of grants last year. We need all the backup. SEMCOG, I am all in on the other roundabout coming in from Heinz Drive. It takes a lot of money. That's a $5 million roundabout. I spent 2.5 hours with Debbie Dingle. I need her assistance. I need SEMCOG. We need everybody we know to have assistance. They're very expensive. So it was a good week for the city of Northville. Second thing I just want to say in passing as mayoral activities, we have new task forces out there. If you want to get involved, we have the Bicentennial Task Force, which we're doing a tremendous amount of things. You hear all these things going on right now. Ann Arbor had theirs, Farmington had theirs. What do they all say? They didn't start early enough. They started 6 months before and they had, we are starting years in advance. We have a lot of people on that. If you want to be involved with different activities, let me know. Also, there's a second group that is a task force to renovate our cemeteries by our bicentennial. We're going to go through every stone. We're going to rebuild those. We'll have history markers out there. That is part of our history. You know, we have Revolutionary War veterans and Civil War veterans over here on Oakwood on Katy Street. We have a whole group that's doing that. We're looking at every stone and what we need to do. That'll be part of the tours and the whole bit. I know that seems unusual, but imagine the 200-year-old oaks, what they've seen. We're going to kind of do that story, kind of like the tree back here, what they've seen in the history of Northville. So those are two task forces that are out there. And of course, you still have the Riverwalk Task Force, which is active. We have a lot of things, and under that is the Farmers Market and Ford Field. We started years ago with Ford Field. We're spending a little over $5 million on Ford Field, pretty much all funded right now from all the work of our citizens. So if you want to get involved, get involved. We have 27 boards and committees. We're doing interviews next week for next quarter, starting for new people on that. So take a look in City News, and it's very active. Myself and the Mayor Pro Tem, Barbara Morowski Brown, we sit down for a good 15, 20 minutes with everybody and get their input on why they should be on these committees. So thank you very much for all you do. That's all I have. I'll tip it off to the council members. Anything to add today?
I
Go ahead.
can kick it off. One is just a response to some questions I've had. The lights at the four-way stops. So those are coordinated by Wayne County. Requests are in. We believe those will be updated tomorrow. So
Yes.
I know that is a frustration and is something that should help alleviate some of the near-term traffic issues as a result. The other item I wanted to address directly is the concerns that are being raised related to the Downs demolition. And note that the city is first working to improve the situation. But I will say, to answer Jeff's question, I don't think he's here anymore or so, but I would not give us a passing grade at this stage. That doesn't mean we're planning to skip graduation, but I think it's pretty fair to say we've got issues. I had someone reach out and say, don't blame me or others that are skeptical. I can assure you that should not be happening. The photos and the videos are clear. We have challenges, we have issues that we need to proactively be resolving. And I think, you know, I would highlight that we know the current situation is not acceptable. And we need to do everything we can as a city to make sure our ordinances are being followed and the requirements being laid out within the developer agreement are also being followed. From a progress standpoint, I will say the city has stopped demolition on several occasions over the last couple of weeks. Additionally, we have started to proactively put the team in place. And this is why I say at this point, I wouldn't give us a passing grade, but we can still fight our way through till graduation day. I think having our new oversight team, and I will refer to that, with Sarah from OHM, Justin being on board as Director of Community Development, Scott, our new building official starting today, Phil, and of course, George. We are proactively working to have someone continuously monitoring that site. That is going to be key, and then empowering those individuals to stop the development at any time we see that the requirements are not being met and that our rules, our ordinances are not being followed is also very important. We need to make sure they all feel they have the ability to do that. I think at this stage, we've got the team now coming into place. We're getting alignment on organization, and we just need to start acting to make sure we're doing everything we can to minimize the impact on the residents. So I know there's frustration. I know some people feel like there's a push back against, and I just wanted to say I appreciate a lot of the challenges to make sure that we're doing as good of a job as we can with that oversight. And the last item that I will raise is tomorrow. I will be at the Lava Grill, serving as a guest bartender, for the Tawny Daring Foundation, as well as for Glover's Heroes. And, it should be a great event to raise money for quite a few charities. So hopefully I will see a number of you there as well. And, come on in, buy your ticket for the charity, and then you can let me know all your different thoughts about what's going on in town. So I'll be there all day and won't be able to escape. But good opportunity to raise some money for some good causes.
Looking forward to it.
Serving a dusty martini.
Yep.
I would just like to, I guess I'll respond to the grading question. He didn't say what the topic was specifically, but I'm assuming it's what is the grade in the current status? This would be, this is the demolition stage. And a lot of that money is covered under brownfield. So, you know, this is important. There's a lot of contaminants there. So I look at it as what is the grade on protecting the public welfare for health and safety, not only of the residents on the perimeter and the businesses that work there, but also their own workers. And I would say that this particular contractor, Renaissance, they get a failing grade. I have seen some improvements, certainly with their water cannons and that, but it seems like if Sarah OHM turns her back, they just go ahead and do it again, which we saw this morning. So I'm hoping they're, you know, that improves, not only they're doing things, I do see an improvement, but it's still failing because when somebody's not watching, they still try to pull stuff. So I think you're a failing grade until you show a consistent due diligence into trying to do your work. The second, so that would be for the contract. The second is the city. City up to last week, I would have given it a D, but I see really good progress. I think part of it is getting the team assembled. OHM, I think, is really stepping up because they now have a sense of the lay of the land of how this contractor's behaving. And I'm very, very confident, and George has an actionable item plan that once we get past this week and a transition of our new building official coming on board, I'm going to hold back the grade of the city, but I think it's definitely good, very good. And I'm very promising for what I'm going to see this week. And I just hope that this particular contractor improves their performance. I know where they were low bid. But I don't want to, people have said, well, that's what you get with a low bid. No, that's not what we expect. They're still making very, very good money. So that would be where I stand on it. And I really thank all of the citizens that send videos and keep in touch with us. It takes a village and nobody can be there all the time. The big plume coming down Fairbrook Street this morning at 7:45 in the morning. And I think Sarah shut down that area right away. So, I heard about it early because somebody texted, I heard about it and then I got a video. So I know this, I think this just, it shouldn't need to, but this takes a village and I appreciate everybody being on top of this that live close to it. So thank you.
Great.
All right, I'm gonna, okay, so the beautification committee, they have done a wonderful job. They've been planting all these last couple of weeks. So when you're driving around, you see the ladies and gentlemen in the pink shirts. I think they've done an excellent job.
Absolutely.
And then Northville High School graduation was last night. It was awesome. The senior all-night party was amazing. And the best part was Mayor Turnbull was in the dunk tank.
It was great. They kept dunking me until 12:30 at night.
Midnight, and he's
Underwater.
until 1 a.m.
Yep.
So we thank him so much because once we
great
got him on
opportunity.
board, teachers, administrators, they were all like, "Oh, we can do it too." So a bunch of girls got him down.
They did. They just went up there and banged it. Thank you. Thank you
All
for
right.
inviting me.
Yeah.
last night.
And then,
Appreciate
with the new street closures, here we are, we're in it. Just want to make sure everyone engages their favorite spots, their favorite restaurants, their favorite stores to keep moving forward, maybe change some hours, get moving. So we have a very activated downtown, but other than that, I think things are moving.
Thank you, Laura.
Andrew. We did have planning tomorrow night, but that's, we had nothing on the agenda, so I'll blame
Oh,
you.
really?
I'm gonna blame the new guy for that.
Oh, jeez.
Nothing to do in this town, and you don't have a meeting tomorrow? Come on.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
BZA's on Wednesday. I'll probably see you there too. Interesting topic. I talked to Tom Berry at length about this is generator ordinance. Setback versus decibel levels as a distance for measurable area, and what does a good ordinance look like? So you could have a quiet generator closer to the setback that doesn't affect the neighbor, or, you gotta understand the difference between 45 and 65 and 80 decibels, and it's logarithmic. And
Right.
so I would love to see that come into play, because I think we're only gonna get more and more generator requests coming through BZA. So I know that
Absolutely.
some for you, maybe to think about. I'll be glad to talk to you about
Yep.
decibel levels and distance from source and, rating and all that kind of stuff. So, we can keep our neighbors' yards quiet. If you do go tomorrow night, get the most complicated drink you can from John. Google Maps should also be updated for what we're doing downtown. I checked on that over the weekend. And then also there's one of the many things George is doing. There's an outreach meeting that I think Laura and I kind of worked on Thursday. So I'll leave my day job to come meet on that, because what's going on is my time up.
Hello.
So I'm really interested in that. So, we can hear what, OHM and also our residents have to say. I think that's very important. But like I said here, I think it's been rough, but I think we're going very much into the right direction. The right staffing's coming on board. It takes time. Lastly, I promised I was going to say this. So my kids watch this, so I'll tune my message to align with the values of my family and our community. Let me reintroduce myself. On this upcoming Wednesday, I will be a proud 18-year resident in the historic district of this city. I'm a married father of 3, baseball coach, travel dance and cheer dad, and I'm building a men's group at Ward's Church, where I've learned to love my neighbor as myself, even if they have nothing good to say about me. Support multiple other personal causes, have served on the City Planning Commission, the Master Plan Revision Task Force during COVID, led the Farmers Market Task Force, multiple other boards, and now serve on City Council as liaison to the Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, Liquor Review Board, Staffing Board, where we've completely overturned administration at the top of the city here to start getting us more grants, more than we've ever seen. And also worked with George and founded Coffee with Council as a civil long-form venue of two-way discussion. You may know us as the house that goes all out at Halloween on Linden and has for a decade for thousands of kids. They still remember us from high school as the Lego house. I hope to take the torch from Greg Presley someday. In fact, I've had multiple discussions with him, so it's just a matter of now he'll pick up my phone and we'll do that. All told, I have freely and happily given over 3,000 hours of my personal life since 2018 to make my city and my neighbors' lives better, when I could have been doing anything else. I have donated thousands of dollars of my money to the Civic Concern, Main Street League, and Northville Education Foundation. In my free time, I have worked at General Motors for 24 years, hold 2 engineering degrees, an MBA, and 5 patents, focusing on vehicle and pedestrian safety and design. I served on the European Union Pedestrian Safety Board when working abroad in Germany. And you try working with Germans as a dumb American. Safety is absolutely my top priority, not a punchline or something I need to prove at this point in my career. I have discussions with Chief Maciag frequently, and I put my head on my pillow knowing I've done everything I possibly could to make the world and my neighborhood a better place that day. Again, I love this city, and God willing will retire and die here decades from now. I then take the additional step with the grace of my busy wife and the time I have left over to find people in the community that share the passion, if not the policies that I applied that I have. I have done this over 50 times with many people, sometimes 4 times, in this room that we're sitting here tonight with great outcomes. This takes time to set up and meet, and I don't have to do it. I could take my wife for walks. I could play catch with my kids. I could go help my aging parents, or I could sleep in that 1 time a month. In February, after being made aware of highly passionate social media discourse from one of our neighbors, I decided to engage with him personally, not as a keyboard warrior, but as a neighbor face to face. After multiple engagements, we are in June, and I give him credit for the discourse.
Okay, I got you. Duly noted. Yeah, I got it.
That is Steve Peichin. I'm not going to hide behind that.
Thank you.
Multiple times I've asked him to assume grace and positive intent, and that I would really like to meet with him. My last email was only 6 days ago. Since then, I've had a work crisis, my daughter's birthday, and my wife has been out of town since Sunday morning. Plus, I had to prep for city council tonight. If it wasn't a priority that had to be done that day for work, for my daughter, or for tonight to represent the broader city. I simply was not able to do it as I'm only one man. Tonight, once again, my neighbor will not assume anything approaching positive intent nor grace from me. I will leave it to everyone in this room to decide if his view of me is accurate or not. Finally, I do support the street closures and I've never misled anyone on that. Whether you agree with me or not, I will tell you where I stand and why. So long as you are civil and assume positive intent, we can talk for hours. There will be no innuendo. I voted 3 times on it and will remain in support until the data says otherwise, and very well could someday. I'm not a zealot. I'm not dogmatic. I am an engineer. I deal with fact and physics and data and nothing more. But yet you insist the worst of my positions without actually ever meeting with me. The Northville I know overwhelmingly is reflected in the friends and neighbors and families I saw in town over the weekend and will continue to believe this. And that's why this is a special city. I refuse to get personal and refuse to be a negative person. I will continue to do everything my wife allows me to do to make my community the best it can be. And I will continue to reach out to my neighbors that share a passion for where we live, especially if we disagree. And that is all. Thank you, Mayor.
We will have a loving. I will probably go to a breakfast with you two. I appreciate it. We'll talk to the 3 of us in a minute. We'll talk in just a minute.
I can't say anything. You already did say.
We'll talk right after. Let me close it off. We'll close it off and you can say it.
Made accusations
Yep.
of me.
I understand and I'm with you and I'm going to listen to it.
When he called.
I tried to stop the meeting there. Let's, when we close the meeting, we'll continue it. I have to go policies and procedures of the state.
That I can respond.
If you hang on for 30 seconds, we will have that discussion right here in front of everybody. Yeah, with others. That's fine. If you just stay 1 second, I would like my city manager's report. So yes.
So I heard a
You can
comment
come back
regarding
up.
HDC guidelines. We actually sent a letter out today to everyone in the district. I think we sent 309 out. Just a coincidence that we sent them out today. Tell people. So you'll be getting it within the next 3 or 4 days. We have it posted on the website. So there is, the guidelines are posted on the website. They might be a little bit hard to find and hopefully you can find them. But we're inviting people to come on, I believe it's June 19th. I think it's before the meeting to weigh in for an hour to have a community input regarding these revisions. So it's coming. People are being notified and hopefully people will attend and provide input. We had an input meeting earlier in the process and I think that no one came. So we're doing a better job getting all the letters out to everybody to make sure people can attend. So hopefully people can attend on that. Thank you for raising that. The other issue I wanted to mention was that heard that I wasn't responsive. I want to mention that after hearing about dust, I personally went out to the site, stood by the side of the road. I talked to the project manager. I talked to residents who were upset. I called OHM and had the staff rep that's the city representative come to the site to give her report. I called the public works director to hear why water couldn't be spread from the Riverside Street. Heard that information from the public works director. And then after hearing from the lady who talked about the dust, I said, let me see what we can do. And I immediately called the building official. And after consulting with the building official, the decision was made and the project manager was notified to shut down demolition on the places adjacent to the River Street. So we took direct action. We were responsive immediately, personally engaging myself down there to be and observe. And we heard from the people and they took action. So we will continue to do that to make things as good as possible. Thank you.
Great. I have high expectations of all 5 of us in here, all 6 of us each and every day. And you can come back in here. My policies and procedures with the state of Michigan, I can't have that back and forth, but I'm going to adjourn it. And I would love for you to come up here once I adjourn, and we are not going anyplace right now. I feel where you're at and I will be part of that. But from that, I'm looking for a motion for adjournment right now. Do we have that?
I
motion?
move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.